Well, Ricky McKinnie, welcome to Biscuits and Jam.
Thank you, Sid. Good to be here.
Ricky, where am I reaching you right now? I can see a couple of Grammys in the background there.
Well, I'm at home here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm over at the Chuck's house at the moment, but I'm at home.
Congrats on the new book. It's called Spirit of the Century, and it's a great read. I've spent a little time with it over the last few days. Tell me a little bit about how y'all came up with the title for that book.
Well, Spirit of the Century was the title of the first album that we did, and that's the first one that won us a Grammy Award.
And Spirit, obviously you're talking about spirit in more ways than one.
Right, we're talking about spirit, meaning what you have on the inside, and just portraying, and the spirit of the Blind Boys, what makes the Blind Boys tick.
Ricky, the Blind Boys have been around for a really long time now. Why did it feel like the right time to put this book together?
The Blind Boys have been around for a long time, like you say. We've been around over 80 years, but it's good to still be here. But what made us do this is that we had done so many things throughout the career of the Blind Boys. Specialty Records had opportunity to sign a contract the same time as Sam Cooke did. Had a hit record back in 1948 called You Can See Everybody's Mother, But You Can't See Mine. And seeing and knowing all of the guys, we had won Grammys and double awards and been all over the world at least 2 or 3 times, and it just felt right. It's time now for us to tell the Blind Boy story.
Well, Ricky, I want to ask about your personal connection to the group. You've been with them for a really long time. I'm wondering if you remember your very first performance with the Blind Boys of Alabama.
Well, my very first performance at the Blind Boys was a long time ago. My mother, her name was Sarah McKinney Shepard, she used to sing with a group called the Gene Martin Singers, and they were on a concert with the Blind Boys of Alabama. And but all during my career, I had an opportunity to, even though I came out with another group, when I started here at home, I was with a group called the Soul Searchers, but we still would run into the Blind Boys of Alabama. And anytime I ran into Clarence and all the guys, I had an opportunity to play. So my career as far as the Blind Boys are concerned goes all the way back to when I was about 18 years old.
Wow, that's a long time ago. I thought I saw somewhere that you performed with them in Australia for the first time. Did I make that up?
Well, that was the first time when I was a member of the Blind Boys. In the beginning, I was just a traveling musician. I wasn't a member of the Blind Boys. I was a member of the Soul Searchers out of Atlanta when I first saw them and played for them. And I was a member of the Gospel Keynotes out of Tyler, Texas, when I was on the road traveling. But, we used to have what they call packages. And they were always sometime in the package. So I had an opportunity to play with just about every quartet back in the day. I was young, but I had an opportunity to step in and be a musician. But you're correct. In 1989, that's when I became a member of the Blind Boys. 2 years before that, Clarence had asked me to go with them to Australia. That's sort of where it all started.
And Clarence was the leader of the group when you joined, is that right?
That's right. Clarence Fountain was the leader of the Blind Boys of Alabama, and he was a great guy. He had big dreams, and he saw most of his dreams come true.
Ricky, I want to talk a lot more about the band, the group in a minute, and all the things that y'all have been up to. But first, I'd love to hear a little bit about your hometown. You mentioned that you're in Atlanta now, and I think this is where you were born and raised. Tell me a little bit about the house and the neighborhood where you grew up.
Oh, yeah. Atlanta is my home. I've never lived anywhere else. But it's a good community. I went to high school here. I played in the band there, Mercury High School. I went to college for a couple of years, and at that time, I had lost a portion of my sight, so I went on the road as a regular musician. My house was kind of cool. I got 2 brothers, Ronald McKinney and Chuck Shivers, and I have a sister. Her name is Janice McKinney, and my mother has always been sort of a foster mother, so we got another sister. Her name's Fatima Wesley. But our house has always been a musical house to stay in. We play rock and roll. We play rhythm and blues. And we have played gospel all in that same house. And so it's been a real rounded family structure.
Well, Ricky, the Blind Boys is a gospel group, obviously, and there's always been a spiritual mission in everything that you do as a band. In terms of your own path, I'm especially curious where you went to church and how that shaped you.
I was a member of the Israel Baptist Church here in the city of Atlanta. The pastor was Reverend William Smith back then. He's passed away since then. But I taught Sunday school, and my mother sang in the choir. I sang in the choir. So all that music and this teaching of the word is what helped to make me who I am today. That's shaped my faith.
So tell me a little bit about the music that you would have heard on a typical Sunday in church. I mean, was it a very musical affair every Sunday, and was it a big choir, or what kind of musical experience would you have had?
Right. If you had gone to the Israel Baptist Church on one Sunday morning, they had what they would call devotion. And in devotion, the deacon board would be in charge, and they would call everybody, call the services together. And they started off with a hymn. It might be, Father, I stretch my hand to thee. But then one of the deacons would go down, they'll have a chair, put a chair in the middle of the floor, and the deacon would go down on his knees, he'll say a prayer. And after he finished saying the prayer, then it came another song. And the choir would sing a song, and then they would talk about the sick and shut in, and they're going from there into what's going on with the church that week. And then another song by the choir, and the next thing you would hear would be the preacher giving the word.
Yeah. I'm guessing you were probably singing a good bit in church yourself, and I'm wondering if there was someone who recognized your voice, recognized your talent, and became sort of a mentor to you.
Not really. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of different people in my past, but it wasn't Clarence Fountain. I met Clarence when I was 4 years old. But what I liked about Clarence Fountain was the fact that he didn't let his disability become a handicap. And we kind of came together when it comes to that. He felt like there was nothing that he couldn't do, nothing too hard for God. I knew that there was nothing I couldn't do if I kept the faith and believed. And I found Clarence Fountain to be like me. He was a dreamer, but he did the work. I mean, he traveled, and he kept the faith, because a lot of times we wasn't making any money, but we never had any hard times. You know, we always ate, we always slept, and by some means we always had a way of transportation. So that's what happened to me. I had an opportunity to talk to a gentleman who would be recognized as the greatest gospel singer in the world. His name was Reverend Julius Cheeks, and I was talking to June one day, and he told me, said, Ricky, he heard me singing, because I had an opportunity to sing behind him. But I came on as a drummer, but a lot of people knew, that I could sing. But he told me one day, he said, Ricky, I tell you what you do. Make a name for yourself. If you make a name for yourself, it'll live forever. So people like Clarence Fountain and Reverend Julius Cheeks and Joe Lagan of the Mighty Clouds of Joy, and Robert Blair. Robert Blair, he would always be and when you first came on the road, right, they said that they wouldn't call it, there was a saying they had, they would call you a skull until you learn the ropes, okay? So one day I was talking to him, he said, what you want, Skull? And we were talking then one day we were sitting down eating. He said, well, Head, I guess you made it. And that's one of the happiest days in my life, to be recognized as a full-fledged gospel drummer that could make its way.
And not a skull anymore.
Not a skull anymore.
Ricky, this is a Southern Living podcast, and we always talk a little bit about food on here, and I'm curious, who was the cook in your family, and what was on the table on most nights?
We had two cooks. I had my aunt, her name was Florence James. She stayed with us, and my mother. And my aunt loved to cook. And my mother, so when she was cooking, my mom would just sit back and let her have the kitchen. But for breakfast, we may have grits or rice, egg scrambled with cheese, bacon, or sausage. And then sometimes you may have fish with the grits. And then for lunch, you were pretty much on your own because we would be going one place or another. But then at dinner time, you may have collard greens, macaroni and cheese, corn, bread, pork chops, or that kind of thing. You have something to drink, iced tea, or something like that.
You were traveling all over the South and really all over the country and the world eventually. But, when you were pretty young, you were doing a lot of traveling. I'm guessing you got to eat in lots of different places. Did you have a favorite place? Did y'all have a favorite town that you would go to when it came to food?
On the Gospel Highway going up 95, we would always stop in Florence, and they had a place there called the Thunderbird. In Augusta, they had a place called Big Red. And then if you were up in New York, you would eat at Sylvia's. And in Atlanta, Auburn Avenue was flourishing back in that day. So you would stop at B.B. Beeman's on the avenue. Sometimes you went to the Royal Peacock. They had good sandwiches there. And the Savoy Hotel, the food was good there. Couldn't beat home, though, but it was good.
So you had your favorite spots that you would detour to all over the place, it sounds like.
As we traveled up and down the highway, we met a lot of friends. We went to people's houses a lot to eat. They would ask us to come over, and we would stop and eat in different places. But that's just some of the restaurants that where we would go sometime. And we were just glad to be able to, fellowship with people.
Well, Ricky, I want to ask about your music career and how it kind of changed when you started to lose your sight. You were a musician and a successful musician early on and in your teens, and you didn't really lose your sight until later. And I'm wondering how that kind of changed your path as a musician.
Well, I started as a professional musician at 18. That's when I first recorded on my first major label. The album was called Great Change by the Soul Searchers. And then at the time that I lost my sight, out of the gospel keynotes out of Tyler, Texas. And the ironic thing about it, I lost my sight in 1975. And we had a big hit record to come out in 1975. It was called The Gospel Keynote, Reach Out, but the hit song was Jesus, You've Been Good to Me. And, and when I lost my sight, well, I lost my sight, but I didn't lose my vision. So I kept on keeping on.
There's a line in the book that says, the blind boys don't see their audience, they have to feel them. I'm wondering how losing your sight changed your relationship to an audience when you were on stage.
Well, when I started out, I was playing drums, okay? And a lot of times when music have changed so much today. Back then, you came to hear the singers and listen to the music. But now they think you need to hear the music and listen for the singers. That would never work back in the day. When it came to me losing my sight, and Clarence was the kind of guy that wanted his mic set a special way. He wanted it to be not much on the stage. The monitor in front of him could be practically off. But as long as he could hear himself, hear that microphone in the audience, and he could hear the people in the audience, we could really do what he had to do. So, and that's why I am today. I tell the boys, I say, look, I don't necessarily need a monitor in front of me. I want to be able to hear the audience. Because if I say something that makes them move, I need to know it. Because I don't say it to myself. I say it to the people.
As someone who's been to a Blind Boys concert and a couple times, there is something really remarkable about the connection that y'all have with the audience. It feels very, very personal and and kind of intense. And it seems like y'all know how to fuel that.
As blind singers, we have to be able to communicate with one another. I like to have the guys that are on each side of me sitting close to me, close enough that I can reach over and tap them on the leg or something. But nevertheless, when you can feel, if I say something and the audience can relate to what I just said, what's from the heart reaches the heart. And that's what we try to do.
Ricky, was Clarence someone who lost his sight early on as a boy, or did it happen much later?
Clarence lost his sight when he was 3 years old. His father had taken him to, they didn't have a lot of doctors back then, but they put in the wrong medicine, gave him the wrong medicine, and that caused him to lose his sight, and he was 3 years old.
Ricky, I want to ask about the group's history for a minute. And there's a lot in the book about the connection between the Blind Boys of Alabama and the Blind Boys of Mississippi. It's a really interesting story of two groups that were kind of competitors in some ways, and there would be a competition between the two at certain performances. But it seems like they also kind of fueled each other's growth. And I'm just wondering if you can share anything about that relationship between those two groups.
What happened was, in the beginning, the Blind Boys were called the Happy Land Jubilee Singers. And at that same time, the Blind Boys of Mississippi were called the Jackson Humineers. So it was a promoter in Newark, New Jersey. He decided he wanted to have a concert. He said, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to say we're going to have a concert, the Blind Boys of Alabama versus the Blind Boys of Mississippi. and that's where it all got started. But Clarence Fountain and Archie Brown Lee, they were friends, and they would be singing one on one side of the building and one on the other side of the building. And then they kind of felt their way until they got to this point where they grabbed hands, and it was some kind of day. And that's the way it was. They was a rival, and Blind Boys from Alabama could sing. Clarence was a showman. Clarence was a showman, and Archie Brown Lee was a singer. And a lot of things that they do today is because of Clarence Fountain and Archie Brown Lee. Archie Brown Lee started what we call squalling. Squalling is sort of what Jimmy does. And Archie Brown Lee started that. And what happened was, I knew a lot of the Blind Boys from Mississippi. When I first lost my sight, Lord would have told me that, man, you need to come on over here with the Blind Boys from Mississippi, because I said I was going home. And but I told him I had work to do. I couldn't, it wasn't just because I lost my sight. I had other things I wanted to do and I needed to do. The Blind Boys of Mississippi, they sang music. They were one of the first groups to go to Europe in 1960. But Blind Boys from Alabama came along later. But like I said, Clarence was a showman, and he could dance, and when he put his hand on his hip, people went crazy. He would put his hand on his hip and turn to the side, and the audience just thought that was the greatest thing ever. See a guy without sight doing all of that. But Archie Brown Lee could stand still and work that audience. I mean, both of them. But Clarence, I'll tell you a short story. My mama said that Sam Cooke was here in Atlanta at the City Auditorium, and Sam Cooke had tore the house down. Everybody was just shouting, and they called the Blind Boys from Alabama. All the Blind Boys came out except for Clarence. And the people were hollering, "Where Clarence? Where Clarence? Where Clarence?" Clarence came, they had a little bit of amplifier. Clarence came out, jumped over the amplifier, and people were crazy.
So he knew how to put on a show. He knew how to get people stirred up.
He could get you going. It's different. I tell people I'm the narrator for the Blind Boys. I'm the group leader for the Blind Boys. But do I call myself the lead singer for the Blind Boys? No, I can't sing lead. And we got guys that can sing lead. But it's a difference in being a lead singer. You probably heard of Bishop Billy Bowers. He was the lead singer. Clarence Fountain was the lead singer. Archie Brown Lee was the lead singer. And just to name a few, because it's the difference. And they had what it takes to make it happen. My mama, she was the lead singer, Sarah McKinnie. But yeah, I can sing a song and I can make it feel good and I feel good. But being a lead singer, no, I don't call it. I call myself an excellent musician when I was playing drums. And now I'm thankful and grateful that I'm able to sing with the Blind Boys. I've been singing with them a long time. Before I became a member, I used to sing with the Blind Boys.
You're also a leader of the group as a manager, and you've been managing these guys since, I think, the late 90s, so almost 25 or 30 years. That seems like a really hard job to corral this group and to keep them going for as long as you have. What's the secret to making that work?
First thing, it's when I began to be the manager of the Blind Boys. The manager before me had passed away, so I stepped in and I managed the group, and I saw what we needed to turn it more into a business than what it was. So, but I had sense enough to know I managed the group from 1997 until 2000. And Chris Goldsmith, who was our agent back then, he told me, he said, Ricky, you're doing a wonderful job, man. He said, but I know a young guy that he's good and he'll work hard for you. And so he took me over to Charles Drevy's house. I met Charles Drevy. I liked him. I liked his spirit. He became the manager of the Blind Boys in 2000, but we still kept the Blind Boys office open. We have a general management office that's with Charles Drevy from Blind Ambition. And now we have a guy named Jeff Dealer from California. He's our manager, 72 Management now. But I'm still managing the Blind Boys office. So, and it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. Because, see, back when I came up, it was nothing called singers and a band. But now we have singers and we have a band. And the Blind Boys are a singing group. And sometimes you have to remind the band that you're the band. They come to hear the singers. They want to hear the singers, and they want to listen to the music. Yes, so it gets kind of interesting sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a challenging job. I'm sure it comes with its tricky situations to manage, including things like a worldwide tour and performances at major award shows and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. See, what happened, my brother, he had a band, and he was doing some things, my brother Chuck. And I think it might have been 2007. We hired him to be the tour manager for the Blind Boys. So he got a job to try to keep everything going. So he's the tour manager. I'm the general manager. I'm the group leader, and Jeff is the general manager.
Whatever you're doing, it's working. Well, Ricky, I want to ask you about the album that y'all came out with last year. It's called Echoes of the South. And it was your first album in, I think, about 6 years. And it won a Grammy for Best Roots Gospel Album. It's a terrific album. And I want to ask you about the first song on that album, which is called Send It On Down. And it feels to me like a song that's really meant to get people up out of their seats. Tell me about the origin of that song.
Well, that song has been around for a long time. I don't know who started it, but we say Send It On Down. That's a Blind Boys stand up and shout song. And every night when we get and sing Send It On Down, we try to make it come on down. We get the people up dancing, and then whoever's leading the song, they go down in the audience, and Joey and is our guitar player. He's the music director. And the music be pumping and the boys be singing, and before you know it, you're up out of your seat because he's going to tell you to come on down. So when they come on down, it's just like something you never seen.
It probably works. It probably does get people up out of their seats, right?
Yeah, it haven't missed yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't missed yet. When the singer go down to the audience and Chuck is moving him around and people can shake his hand and they get up out of the seat. Well, it's just like fire. It spreads, and when you get that fire burning, before you know it, you got a mess going on.
Yeah,
Holy
which is what
Ghost
you
shouting
want.
good time.
That's
right.
what you want.
That's it.
Well, there's another song on the album that is called "Heaven Help Us All," and this is a song that was recorded by Stevie Wonder a long time ago, maybe in the early 70s, 1970 or so. But it seems more relevant than ever. With everything going on in the world, this idea of, just heaven help us all makes a lot of sense. And it seems like it could have been written for today. How did y'all land on this song for the album?
We used to produce our own records. We wrote all our own songs, and the band was produced all our own records. We had a record company, but we did all of the producing. But we had different producers to come in with different songs. But that song it fit, like you say, it fit the way things are today. There's so much going on all over the world, but there's a lot going on right here in America. So I don't know if we get it right, but either way it goes, heaven help us all.
I'm guessing you probably know Stevie Wonder. Have y'all met over the years?
I don't know him, but I have met him. We were awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award from a company called Visions, and their goal was to help people that had retina detachment. They brought the blind boys in, and they gave us a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Stevie Wonder was the one that presented it to us. And then we sung Higher Ground together. That was a great experience.
Ricky, as a blind musician, I'm wondering if there are advantages to not having your sight. Obviously, there are disadvantages. You mentioned, being able to see the other members of the band, being able to see the audience, being able to even see your instrument. But what are some of the advantages that you have in terms of maybe being able to hear things more deeply or being able to connect with the audience in a different way?
Well, when I was playing drums, it was a different situation than what I'm doing now. I had to listen to the voices and the music. A lot of people say that when you lose your sight or you lose something, that your sight enhances the hearing. Sometimes it depends on the person. Depends on what you're listening to. It's up to the individual. If you lose your sight or something goes wrong in your life, you just have to realize that a disability is not a handicap, and you have to do what you have to do. I mean, when I first lost my sight, I was 23. People tried to look down on my musicianship, and but I always knew who I was. It didn't matter who you thought I was. It would matter who I was. I thank God for the blind boys, because I don't know of any groups, no matter how well a blind guy sing and play, I'm talking about professional groups, that has a blind musician in it. It's not because of the fact that you can't play. It's because of the fact that you're not the choice. So the blind boys have opened doors, for a lot of blind musicians. And Ray Charles, he had this group, Stevie Wonder, Jose Feliciano, but these were band leaders. They were band leaders. In the blind boys group, we're band leaders. No matter what the band may think, and, sometimes you get a musician, but that's life. That's the way people are. They think that just as like you do what you do. If you went into office with your sight and then you lost your sight or you're in office, people have a tendency to try to underestimate you because of your disability. But they don't realize that everybody has a disability. Nobody's perfect. But so me, I'm unbossed, and I'm me all the way through. I mean, people don't. I'm temperamental. But I've learned that when it comes to doing something, having it, you just don't never know. You know, who would think that Ricky McKinnie, who started out as the drummer for the Blind Boys, would be the narrator of the Blind Boys, or the group leader for the Blind Boys. I've had my own group, Ricky McKinnie Singers, and it was a great group. My record was, Ricky McKinnie Singers record was reissued this year. It's called the Ricky McKinnie Singers I Never Had Love Before. They reissued it this year. And you just got to know who you are, because no matter what your situation is, if you get to the point that you're a little different than everybody else, you got to stand your ground, especially when you know you're right. It's not hard. But Clarence was the kind of guy that he meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And they knew that, so we didn't have any problem. They try to push me around sometimes, but at the end of the day,
yeah,
it's going to go the way I say it.
Ricky, I want to ask about one of your biggest songs, and that was a version that y'all did of Amazing Grace. And it was sung to the melody of House of the Rising Sun, which, of course, is the famous song about a brothel. Yeah. Why was that such a powerful idea to take Amazing Grace, which is, one of the greatest gospel songs of all time, and then to sing it to that melody of House of the Rising Sun?
We had a producer by the name of John Shalhoub, and he had a vision, great engineer. He did what he did. He could do what he did. But he came to the Blind Boys with that House of the Rising Sun melody and said, man, y'all need to sing this, and you need to sing it with Amazing Grace. And I said, oh, no, we can't do that. And John said, no, we can't do that, Jimmy. And he said, just try it, man, just try it. So they said I always had a connection with Clarence. I said, Clarence, look, man, just try it. I tell you what, I'm going to try it, but it ain't going to be nothing. I said, okay, let's try it anyway.
Oh, he didn't think it was a good idea.
No. None of them thought it was going to work. But if Clarence had said no for real and put his foot down, it wouldn't have. We wouldn't have never sung that song. But we talked for a minute. I said, now look, these people trying to record this record, they got the money out. We need to sing this song. He said, it ain't gonna be nothing. I said, okay, but let's do it anyway. And it aimed to be one of our biggest songs. And then we spoke to Clarence about it. He said, oh yeah, it was great. I knew it was gonna be all right.
He came around once he saw it take off. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Well, Ricky, the Blind Boys of Alabama have been around for a long time. It's one of the longest running groups in the history of modern music. What are your hopes for the future of the Blind Boys?
I just hope that after the Ricky McKinnie is gone, that somebody will come in with the same kind of temperament that I have. I love the Lord. He's shown favor in my life many, many, many times. And I don't like to talk about it, because when I talk about it, they say I'm bragging, but I'm not bragging. If you're telling the truth, it's just the truth. After I'm gone, we have some people in there today. Sterling Glass, he's a religious guy, and that's good, because we all believe in God, and we are a praying group, and I love that. And we got a guy out of Ohio. His name is J.W. Smith. He brings a lot to the group also. He taught college for years, and after he retired, he came to the group. He had talked to me about 5 years before he retired. He said, when I retire, man, I want to be with the Blind Boys. I said, okay, man, we'll see what happens. And that's what happened. But I just like to keep it going, let people know what keeps us on the road. It's the fact that God has allowed us to be a symbol that no matter what your situation is, you can make it happen. And whoever comes after me, I hope they don't allow sighted people to come in and take it over. Because it's the only thing we got, the Blind Boys of Alabama. I appreciate people. I appreciate what they do. But at the end of the day, I'm going to look out for the blind boys of Alabama. And I can be wrong, who's not going to be wrong sometime. But I hope we will still find some young men that are strong enough, believe in the blind boys of Alabama, believe in what we do. And somebody that's want to do what we do. Somebody can look back over their life like I can and say something good about me. Like I believe, like Clarence. Clarence, he was a symbol of that. He was a strong leader, a very strong leader. It takes a lot to be a strong leader because no matter what goes on, what goes wrong, they're going to point at you. And so the weight is not too hard. It's not too hard because I believe in what I'm doing. But as long as there is a group, not a band, as long as there's a group by the name of Blind Boys of Alabama that can sing a song, we love the band. We love the band enhances the group. When I say that, I mean that. But the Blind Boys are a singing group. And as long as there's some people that love the Lord, that has an insight to keep things going. See, I lost my sight, but I never lost my vision. And I was directed in the right way a long time ago. And knowing that, I'm good. I just hope everything turned out. Somebody can see the good in me.
Well, Ricky, you're born and raised in the South. You grew up in Atlanta. You still live in Atlanta. And the Blind Boys are such a part of the fabric of the South when it comes to music. And we're so influential for so many years and are still influential. I just have one more question for you. What does it mean to you to be Southern?
What does it mean to me to be Southern? I was born and raised in the South. But just because I was born and raised in the South, I learned that people need people and working together works. It doesn't matter that you are a Democrat or if you're a Republican, if you're a Baptist, Methodist, because none but the righteous is going to see God. And as long you can't put a name on it. I mean, if you're a Christian, that's good, but as long as I was born, what means to me be called a Southerner. I was born in Atlanta. I've never been nowhere else that I wanted to live. I've been a couple of places still a little while, but I've never been anywhere else. Things are changing. The South changes like anything else. People changes. People come from all walks of life. But I guess they call me a Southerner because I was born in the South.
Well, Ricky McKinnie, congrats on everything, the album and the new book. And I hope the Blind Boys of Alabama keep at it for a really long time. So thanks so much for being on Biscuits and Jam.
Well, thank you for having me. I just want to say this, that the Blind Boys of Alabama have been called a lot of things. They've been called institutions. They've been called a lot of different things. The main thing is that I'm proud. I'm proud of what the Blind Boys did. I'm proud of what Clarence a long time ago instilled into the group. And I'm proud of all the people that it takes to make it what it is today. People like you, they still think a lot of the Blind Boys. And you go a lot of places. And I tell them, I say, what you do reflects on the Blind Boys. And if you can respect that you do, you respect the Blind Boys of Alabama and what it stands for. See, the Bible says, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men. So I'm a firm believer that we just don't sing a gospel song. God has allowed us to sing a gospel song, and we lift him up, and we've been all over the world. When people come to hear the Blind Boys, don't even speak English, come back and have to have an interpreter, but they feel something. They might not understand what it is, but as long as the Blind Boys are doing the right thing, and the right thing is singing good gospel music, treating people right, and trying to be who they are, the Blind Boys of Alabama. I hope it lasts a long time. But I'm going to say this before I go. Don't miss it when the boys are back in town.
Well, you guys know how to lift people up, so y'all keep at it for as long as you can.
Oh, yeah. And see, I tell you what, they need to get that book about the Blind Boys, that Spirit of the Century. I read the book myself coming in audio as well as print. It's a real book, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a bunch of stories that people talk about. Man, you're gonna find out some stuff about the blind boy that you never thought about. And got a little bit about me in there. I had made me cry. A little bit about Ricky McKinnie, what I stood for.
We're gonna tell people all about it.
Hey, let's do that. And I tell you what, thank you for having me here with you today. And hey, I hope to see you soon. Look out for me.
Thank you, Ricky.